What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the channel. My name's Rock Soldier, and today we're going to be reacting to Migraine by 21 Pilots off their Vessel album. Now, I will say I have heard this song before, and I do know the song pretty well already, but I figured I'd still react to it just because we've been going through the album, and I know some of you guys like my opinions and kind of the breakdowns of my interpretations and whatnot, but I already know this song's a banger. I mean, there's a reason I got some of the lyrics, tattooed here on my arm here, some of the lyrics towards the end of the song. But nonetheless, man, I'm super excited to break down this video for you guys, man. We're going to hop right into it. Let's get it.
Waging my words behind my face and above my throat. Shadows will scream that I'm alone.
It's also my ringtone. I don't know if you guys knew that. It's also my ringtone.
I've got a migraine, and my pain will range from up, down, and sideways. Thank God it's Friday, cause Fridays will always be better than Sundays, cause Sundays are my suicide days. I don't know why they always seem so dismal. Thunderstorms, clouds, snow, and a slight drizzle. Whether it's the weather or the letters by my bed, sometimes death seems better than the migraine in my head. Let it be said what the headache represents. It's me defending in suspense. It's me suspended in a defenseless test, being tested by a ruthless examiner that's represented best by my depressing thoughts. I do not have writer's block. My writer just hates the clock. It will not let me sleep. I get so sleep when I'm dead, and sometimes death seems better than the migraine in my head. Am I the...
It's just crazy how good this verse is. I mean, just like from the flow with the beat, it goes so perfectly. Again, we have one of those beats that's like very kind of upbeat and kind of happy sounding. But again, we're talking about some serious things. And the thing I think I really like about this song is that he kind of just comes out and says what the migraine is, and that he's not talking about a literal migraine, just using it as a metaphor, right? And he says, I got a migraine, and basically just saying that he feels that he's surrounded by pain. When he says, I feel the range of pain from up, down, and sideways. And then he goes on to talk about how like Sundays thank God it's Friday, because Sundays are my suicide days. And throughout a lot of their music, and I know we haven't really ventured too much into their older stuff, which is really cool to see them keep up that theme throughout a lot of their music, is how like Sundays are kind of like the worst day of the week, right? It's kind of the start of the work week. It's also now that we've like realized how much more of like his Christian faith is kind of in these songs a little bit for him personally. It's also kind of like a day of reflection. It's obviously the day of worship, and the day that you go to church and stuff, so there can be a lot of reflection and a lot of thinking on those days. So those days can kind of just be heavy in general as a whole, as a basis, ready. So right, so that's kind of why he's like, thank God it's Friday. It's the end of the work week, the complete opposite. We see something like that in the newer songs like Saturday and stuff off the new album. And he says, he doesn't know why the days always like seem so bad, right? Whether it's just like, he says, whether it's the thunderstorms, clouds, snow, or a slight drizzle, kind of just like bad weather, right? Just kind of bad things going around in the environment, just like multiple issues kind of going on in his life. I think that's kind of like a metaphor for, or whether it's not the letters by his bed, kind of making like a nod towards like suicide notes almost, right? Kind of just again like that contemplation, and we've talked a lot about that too in a lot of our reaction videos, is that idea of just contemplating it. And he says it right after that, is because sometimes death seems better than the migraine in my head, the issues I have going on in my life, right? And just that contemplation of like, would this be the best solution? Because I just want the pain to end and stuff. And then this is when he goes on and said, just let it be clear, like this headache, the migraine, is not an actual migraine. It's just it's me. When he says it's me being suspended in a defenseless test, being tested by a ruthless examiner, just kind of saying like how unfair kind of like life is and some of these issues are, right? Because he's up in a defenseless test, saying he has nothing he can do against this test, right? There's no way to pass. It's impossible. And being tested by one of the meanest professors, so to speak, like life, there is. And basically saying that ruthless examiner is represented by his negative thoughts, whether that's self-doubt and just insecurities in general. So suicidal thoughts, so on and so forth. And so he kind of just says that you know, he spends a lot of time pondering these thoughts and these issues. You know, it won't let him sleep, and I guess I'll just sleep when I'm dead. Kind of maybe just saying that, you know, he's just gonna keep on working on it. But again, at the very end, contemplates, you know, would death be the best solution? You know, because sometimes it seems better than the migraine in my head, the issues I have going on in my life, right?
When I'm dead, and sometimes death seems better than the migraine in my head. Am I the only one I know? Waging my wars behind my face and above my throat. Shadows will scream that I'm alone, but I know we've made it this far, kid.
See, I also like that part too, because it's like, again, questioning, is he the only one that goes through this, man? Like, is there anybody else that's kind of going through this mental war, this mental battle that he's been going through in his life? And that the negative thoughts, the shadows, so to speak, will tell him that he's all by himself, and that nobody can relate to him. Nobody else is going through this, so nobody could possibly understand, right? Trying just to make him feel alone and stranded and isolated. But then he goes on at the very end right there, he says, but I know we've made it this far. Kid, kind of saying that, you know, kind of self-reflecting, remembering himself as a kid. Times are a little bit easier, a little less stressful, right?
Me for yelling, I'm telling you, green gardens are not what's growing in my psyche. It's a different me, a difficult to beast, a feasting umber down trees. Freeze frame, please let me paint a mental picture portrait. Something you won't forget. It's all about my forehead and how it is a door that holds back contents that make Pandora's box contents look non-violent. Behind my eyelids are islands of violence. My mind shipwrecked. This is the only land my mind could find. I did not know it was such a violent island, full of tidal waves, suicidal crazed lions. They're trying to eat me, blood running down the chin. And I know that I can fight, or I can let the lion win. I begin to assemble what weapons I can find, cause sometimes to stay alive you gotta kill your mind.
So I gotta say, this is one of my favorite verses that 21 Pilots has ever done that I've heard, man. I mean, just the flow, the creativeness to it, man. Just some of the way he raps some of the words and rhymes some of the words is just beautiful and just absolutely perfect with the beat and exactly what he's talking about, right? So again, he says, you know, just it's all about my forehead. It's all about, you know, what's going on in my head, right? And that basically it's he says it's a door that holds back contents that make Pandora's box contents look non-violent, basically saying that he has, you know, very violent thoughts, maybe, you know, probably about suicide and negative thoughts about himself and like I said, insecurities and whatnot. So then he goes on to say that behind my eyelids are islands of violence, my mind shipwrecked, this is the only land my mind could find, and I did not know it was such a violent island. Kind of saying that, like, so he's saying when he says his mind shipwrecked, kind of just saying that he feels like isolated, right, cut off from everybody else, because again, you know, all these issues and stuff, it kind of makes him feel alone, almost as like nobody's understanding him and nobody really knows what he's going through. And that he landed on this island of tidal waves and suicidal crazed lions that are trying to eat him and stuff, right? That basically just represent all his negative thoughts, basically saying that he landed on an island that's just with his thoughts, just his negative thoughts. So he's kind of feeling shipwrecked in his own mind, but only like in the negative parts of his mind, right? And then he goes on to say, you know, that he knows he can fight or he can give in, basically, right? So and at the very end, he says, begins to assemble what weapons he can find, and then because sometimes to stay alive, you got to kill your mind. And that's the lyrics that I have tattooed on my arm, is sometimes to stay alive, you got to kill your mind. And I really like that. That's really just been really significant for me, just being able to like really take a step back and just, you know, reflect and really think and take a breather from whatever is going on, right? And I don't necessarily even, like, for me personally, it doesn't even necessarily mean like all the way to something like really bad, like, you know, suicidal thoughts or just like negative doubts and insecurities like that. It can just be from everyday things too that are just like frustrating or irritating, right? It's really just taking a step back to kind of clear your mind and slow down and, you know, maybe don't overthink things, kind of type thing, right? So, you know, kind of again saying that he's going to continue to fight, even if sometimes he's got to take a step back and quiet his mind, so to speak, right? So, you know, I've always loved that verse, man. It's such a good one.
And I know that I can fight, or I can let to stay alive, you gotta kill your mind. Am I the only one I know? Waging my wars behind my face and above my throat. Shadows will scream that I'm alone, but I know we've made it this far, kid. Yeah. And I will say that we should take a day to break away from all the pain our brain has made. The game is not played alone. And I will say that we should take a moment and hold it and keep it frozen and know that life has a hopeful undertone. And I will say that we should take a day to break away from all the pain our brain has made. The game is not played alone. And I will say that we should take a moment and hold it and keep it frozen and know that life has a hopeful undertone. Am I the only one I know? Waging my wars behind my face and above my throat. Shadows will scream that I'm alone, but I know we've made it this far, kid. We've made
I love
it
the
this far.
piano outro here. The song.
We've made it this far.
All right, so that was Migraine by 21 Pilots off of their Vessel album. And you know, I think it's pretty clear at this point, man, that I'm a huge fan of this song, man. I really enjoyed this one. I just like how kind of like how forward they are with it, right? So just kind of out with it, right? They're not. I mean, there's a lot of metaphors and a lot of lyricism there, with deep meaning and stuff. But they also kind of come out and just say exactly what he's thinking, right? You don't have to like dig too hard to really get it. And at the same time, they're still, you know, spreading that message of you know, like, hey, you know, you're not alone. You know, we can continue to fight through these negative times and stuff, and kind of just explaining what he goes through, you know, with the negative thoughts and how his mind kind of works, right? So, you know, overall, man, I've always enjoyed this one. I mean, beat, flow versus meaning, it's all there. It's a perfect package, man. So, you know, I enjoyed this one. Hopefully you guys did as well. And if you did, please make sure to leave a like, hit that sub button, hit that bell, and we're dropping the next one. So I got for you guys for now. It's your boy Rock Soldier. Hope you have a great rest of your night, and even better tomorrow. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. All right, guys. Peace.